Hi everyone, I'm Mike Damergis, and welcome to yet another edition of Bench Jockeys. My co-hosts tonight are Mike and Steve Gonzalez. Welcome to the show, guys. Tonight, we'll be talking about Reggie Jackson, the latest inductee into the hallowed halls of Cooperstown. And a little later on in the show, Steve will be interviewing Marc Washington, Executive Vice President of the Westchester Stallions, and Harry Hart of the Stallions of the United States Basketball League, this county's latest venture into professional sports. But first things first, guys. Last show we did a segment including the Franklin computer, and you tabulated the 1978 Yankees, and I said Lou Piniella was the leading hitter on the team. You said Chris Chambliss was.
Yes.
You guys argued with me. I said Piniella was, and of course you bozos were wrong. What happened?
We was wrong.
We made a mistake. The computer categorizes the team by at-bats, not by batting average. Chris Chambliss led the team in at-bats that year. Lou Piniella led the team in batting average with a qualifying at-bats of around 400.
So anybody who was watching was saying, idiots, obviously you guys don't know what you're doing. So prove it and get it out of the way right away.
We stand corrected, we are idiots.
Well,
okay, that was last show. This is a new show. Let's make some fresh mistakes. And speaking of guys who made a career of producing on mistakes was Reggie Jackson. I mean, here's a guy who had 563 home runs. This August 1st, he'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Do either of you have a problem with that, his selection into the Hall of Fame?
Not at all. He definitely deserves to get in the Hall of Fame, there's no doubt about it.
on the first ballot as well. Absolutely deserves to get in right away.
My only complaint is that percentage-wise, the amount of votes he got, he's 10th all-time in percentage of votes. Tom Seaver, we know, is first. Next is Ty Cobb and then Hank Aaron. But there are some men left out who come in behind Reggie Jackson in the vote percentage to get into the Hall of Fame, which I think deserve to be ahead of Reggie.
Reggie's percentage, though, was 93.6, 10th all-time of any player ever to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, ahead of Hank Aaron.
No, Hank Aaron was third. I said that before. Hank Aaron was third. The guys that come into mind are Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams. I don't even think Joe DiMaggio got in on the first ballot.
DiMaggio,
That's impossible.
it took 3 tries for DiMaggio to get in. He got 1 vote in 45, and then he finally was elected, I think, in 55. But it was on his 3rd try. Mel Ott also took 4 tries, and Mel Ott hit 500 home runs, which was guaranteed passage into the Hall. So I think the voting is screwy. When you say that about Aaron not getting the percentage of votes, also consider who he was running against. Reggie might have run against a weaker field, making him the obvious choice.
A lot of people might see Reggie Jackson's induction into the Hall of Fame as the one-dimensional player being selected into the Hall of Fame. Do you see that as true?
Not at all. I think Reggie was, especially early on in his career, was all around a great ball player. I don't think he ever hit for the high average, but defensively he was very, very good. And on the base path, I thought he was an excellent, excellent base runner. Might not have been the fastest runner, but a very smart runner.
Reggie was a total ball player. I think one of the things you have to remember, he played in a ballpark that was a notorious pitcher's ballpark. The foul space between first and third. A lot of the foul balls that would normally find their way into the stands were caught. In fact, in '73, the MVP year, he hit 323, but hit 323 on the road. So I think to hold certain things against him, like a low batting average, consider the ballpark. Secondly, people consider him to be a butcher in the field, but in the '73 series, he played center field. When Bill North went down, you wouldn't put a poor fielder in center. You'd find someone else. So I take issue with the fact that people would think he's one-dimensional. He's best known for his home runs. Lou Brock best known for stolen bases, but to categorize him as... Absolutely. And to categorize him as one-dimensional, I think would be wrong. Plus, if there's a trend of so-called one-dimensional players, I think that has more to do with the specialization of the game. I wouldn't blame Reggie for induction of players that might not have a well-rounded game.
As far as his base running, one thing I want to point out, he's a very smart base runner. And the '78 World Series, when he had the altercation at first base.
The ball hit him in the thigh.
Exactly.
A run scored,
right, that was a key moment in the game and in the series. That, to me, is very heads up.
I think getting Tom Lasorda man, automatic induction, and getting Garvey man on the same play is perfect. So that's induction right there. But a very smart base runner. And towards the end of his career, when he wasn't quite as fast, age robs your physical skills. He still knew when to go from first, right, and when to take a chance and go to first or third. He knew the outfielder's arm strength, and he knew the appropriate moment to take a chance. And I think that gets overlooked a lot of times, Reggie.
Okay, on that note, let's take a clip of the quintessential Reggie Jackson.
The final member of the all-time outfield triumvirate.
Reggie Jackson.
When I was a young kid, I was a great player. I had more talent than most players.
Reggie Jackson.
99% of them. And so for me, all I had to do was have a good year, and I was going to be in the top 5 or 10 in most valuable player award.
There's a long drive to deep left going, and gone. The kind of power that he has, he hits some of the longer shots in baseball.
And I was going to be named to the All-Star team. And it was just fulfilling the God-given ability that I have.
Reggie Jackson, a fine all-around player.
That footage really brings back a lot of great memories. I know. I remember Reggie in his heyday. He was something else. Reggie once said, he was so quotable in his day, "It's a fickle town. They get you, boy. They don't let you escape with minor scratches and bruises. They put scars on you here." This, of course, is Reggie's reference to the local New York media.
Nobody in here knows what he's talking about.
Right. Reggie never shied away from the spotlight. And I want to know, how did he escape unscathed in light of today's players and all the controversy going on, especially today with the Mets?
I don't think he escaped unscathed at the time. I think time has been kind to him for one key factor I'll get to in a second. But when he came on the team in '77, he was on a team that had won a pennant in '76, basically said, "I'm here, I'll finish the job." And if you remember correctly, he alienated the media, the fans, and a lot of his teammates for that remark, and a lot of other remarks, such as the famous the sports magazine. Everybody knows that. But I think the key to what you're saying, how did he escape unscathed, was his ability to produce. And I think, in the end, saying those comments will rankle a lot of people, but if you win, you're forgiven real quickly. Reggie won. From '71 to '82, when he was on the A's, when you're on the Orioles, A's, Angels, and Yankees, his team finished with 10 division championships, 6 pennants, and 5 World Series winners. And I'm not saying he could say anything, but he came awfully close and could get away with it because he could produce.
Definitely, the guy always came through. I mean, say what you want, he always came through. The clutch hitter, Mr. October, he always did more than he expected. And one thing that I have to say is that Reggie was always secure with himself. I think nowadays, and I go back to Bonilla, I jokingly said something about it, but I think Bonilla making a lot of money is not secure with all that money and his talent. So he gets rankled very easily, whereas Reggie Jackson has a lot of confidence and knows that no matter what he says, he'll always back it up.
You shouldn't, well, I know you're not picking on Bobby Bonilla, but it takes a special person to endure. And I don't know if anybody would be able to stand up to what's the media scrutiny in New York. And Reggie was able to. So he's sort of like the exception. I think players in New York really aren't aware of the media coverage until they're here.
Right.
Reggie he ate it up.
Remember Mike Witt with the Yankees?
Eddie
Whitson. He wanted to come to New York. Was really happy.
There's a list of players.
And then when he finally got here, he couldn't handle it. I think, honestly, though, the baseball misses that type of guy who can handle the media. I don't know how you guys feel, but
absolutely.
I think Barry Bonds, the type of guy who has the Reggie Jackson numbers early on in his career so far, can't really handle the media the way Reggie could. I think baseball misses somebody like that.
I think baseball misses a winner. That's what they miss. If Barry Bonds had been able to get them in the series at least once, twice, I think you might see the second generation Reggie Jackson. I think that's what's missing from his career, but he's still young. He has a shot.
You talk about Reggie Jackson, too. His World Series numbers are phenomenal. 10 World Series home runs, .357 average. Dizzy Dean once said, "It ain't bragging if you can do it." And Reggie Jackson did it like nobody else really has done since we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. We did some research and everything, and we chose the years from 1969 to 1982. Reggie's prime years, 1969, of course, being the first year Reggie hit the 47 home runs.
Finished third.
Right. And then 1982, the last year he led the league in home runs. So that's a 14-year span. Reggie Jackson hit 434 home runs. And as you can see by the graphics, Darryl, could you bring up the graphics, please? That Reggie Jackson was atop his class.
Yeah,
over 1,300 RBIs during those 14 years.
Yeah, the thing that really impressed when we were doing the research was that he was also first in doubles.
That's right, 362 doubles. He led the American League in doubles.
Right, but still quite an accomplishment. Most careers don't last 14 years. What about hits? I believe he was fourth in hits.
He's behind Rod Carew and Carl Yastrzemski as far as hits.
So there were a lot of other things that you wouldn't expect Reggie Jackson to be among the leaders, and he was. And when we were doing the research, his name consistently came out on top on a lot of other categories, not batting average, but he was, I think, in the top 20 as well.
Top 16
Right.
16 of American National League from 1969 to 1982. And I remember when he was playing, he didn't get the credit he deserved as far as being a high average. Today, if Reggie was playing, who knows what he'd get. But that's what they said about Mantle when Reggie was playing.
That's true.
You know, it's true, but that's
all
great to be compared to Mickey Mantle and Reggie, I'm sure.
I got a question for you guys. 1973, what did Reggie accomplish in the American League?
Do you know it? I know it.
Well, he was the most valuable player.
Right?
Right, during the season.
And the World Series.
And the World Series.
During the World Series.
World Series.
And he's the last American leaguer to accomplish that.
Part of Reggie's greatness was that his influence extended beyond the field. He was more than numbers. I mean, the press just loved him because of his quotes. Let me just read you a couple of quotes of Reggie. You know, he was sort of a shy guy. One quote he once said, "I didn't come to New York to be a star. I brought my star with me."
Fantastic.
Excuse me.
Another quote, "Love me or hate me, you can't ignore me."
He's a modest man.
And the final quote I picked out is, "If I played in New York, they'd name a candy bar after me." And that, in a sense, they really did in 1978. You remember Reggie Jackson hitting the home run in the bottom of the first inning against the White Sox, I think it was. Hit a 3-run home run. That was his 4th home run of 4 swings, extending back to the 1977 World Series. And the fans just showered the field with candy bar, Reggie bars and everything. And he was Mr. Excitement. He was what it was all about.
He certainly was. Mike brought up a good point during the research about Reggie's influence off the field, especially with black ball players. Do you want to just
I think
comment on that?
Reggie wasn't the first to think of it, but one of the things he said was a lot of people just assume black athletes have more natural talent and they're not working hard at getting where they are. But Reggie was the first, and he had a form, and he's very articulate, and he pointed out that black athletes work just as hard, and they're just as intelligent on the field. It's not just a matter of putting a bat in his hands and going out there. There was a lot of hard work that went into where his ability to do what he did. And I think the thing that impressed me about Reggie was that, I mean, he might have said things that rankled people, but he knew he had a form. It's not that he felt he had a responsibility, but he seemed to come up with a lot of things that made sense. And that's what strikes me about Reggie Jackson, his ability.
He was ahead of his time in a way?
I don't know if I can say he was ahead of his time, but he wasn't shy, and he knew he made great copy. He probably bailed out a lot of newspapermen. And when he said something, there was a lot of thought went into it. He said a lot of things, and some of it you could disregard, but he was a very thoughtful player. And the thing that impresses me about him was not only that he could back up what he said, but that he was a flamboyant character, kind of like the Muhammad Ali of baseball.
Okay, quickly, in 1967, the Mets had a choice between Steve Chilcott.
66.
66? 1966 amateur draft. The Mets had a choice between Steve Chilcott and Reggie Jackson. Who they choose? Steve Chilcott.
That's a smart pick.
Who never played an inning of Major League Baseball. Boy, they got to be kicking themselves, because years later they had Tom Seaver and Reggie Jackson on the same team, and who knows how many World Series they would have won.
That would have been a great team.
Well, you know, it's funny because they talk about the bad trades they made. You very rarely ever hear about that.
You never hear it. We had to dig it up early.
You don't hear about that.
Well, also, one thing that was pointed out during our research was that Steve Chilcott was a catcher.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, catching, like, as always, I guess, is always the hottest commodity.
Especially today, the way...
Right, but today, but also back then. So I guess, with that thinking, maybe it wasn't that bad a pick as far as position. Picking by the position, they wanted to pick a catcher.
Well, I guess that crane pool was more valuable.
One of the things that sold him on it, just to get some kind of reference, I don't know if you have time.
Quickly.
When they saw Charles Chilcott, if you're wondering how they could make such a big mistake, it was split down the middle as to who was going to be the first pick. Even though the potential seemed to favor Reggie, the Mets seemed to be picking by position. A mistake, obviously.
Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, Steve will have Marc Washington and Harry Hart of the Westchester Stallions.
Where will you be home?
Where are you going?
What are you doing?
With Richie. Who's Richie?
I think he's your first boyfriend.
Boyfriend? Honey, have you talked to her about
Sex? I'm going too. Have you talked with him?
It isn't easy, but talking about sex and relationships is important. Planned Parenthood can help. Parents, teens, and families. Call Planned Parenthood. It makes sense.
Those are just some of the 80 USBL players now in the NBA. The United States Basketball League is a professional summer basketball league established in 1985. With us tonight are two members of the Westchester Stallions, the newest franchise in the USBL. With us are Marc Washington, Executive Vice President of the Westchester Stallions, and Harry Hart, the #1 territorial pick of the Stallions, who also was a student athlete at Iona College. First of all, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having us here.
Before we go on, I want to also say that Harry was just named to the first team All-MAC conference. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also second team All-Metro.
Yes.
Congratulations, Harry.
Thank you.
Now, Mark, give us some background on the league. How many teams are there and where do they play?
The league's been around for approximately 8 years, and there's 8 teams in the league presently, with clearly some growth will be forthcoming. Teams are in Miami, Palm Beach, Daytona, Atlanta, New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, and ours in Westchester Stallions in Westchester.
And there are 2 divisions, correct? A northern division and a southern division?
That's correct.
That's how it's broken up.
Sure.
And it's a 26-game schedule?
Plus playoffs and championships.
And approximately how long does it last?
We'll go from mid-May to mid-July, and then after that we're working with IMG and Mark McCormick with the USBL Executive Committee, which I'm a part of, as well as Joe Abergil and Harold Geringer, our other partners, to get a international basketball festival, which hopefully will be played in New York or potentially Atlanta. We're not sure.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, keep us in touch. We'd love to know about it. A lot goes into picking the home of an expansion team, as you've seen in Major League Baseball and football, committees,
Sure.
research, investigation.
Sure.
Why was Westchester County picked for a team?
Joe Abergil and Harold Geringer and myself, after sitting down with Dan Meisenheimer, the commissioner of the league, after watching last year's NBA Knick Camp, which was held at the Westchester County Center, and doing a lot of work in terms of demographic studies and all those statistical data, et cetera, we saw the response to the Knick Camp. They were getting 4,000 to 5,000 people at games. They were turning away hundreds of people. And we saw that as a viable situation, and especially that in conjunction with Harry's illustrious career at Iona and the formidable group that they have there with their coaches, Mr. Walsh and Jim Bostic, et cetera, et cetera. We felt that there was a good collegiate atmosphere, as well as the Knicks and the Nets and all these pro teams coming here in the summer for free agent camps. It was a good place for us, as well as a demographic of the people and the profile and the businesses in Westchester County.
It definitely had a lot. The county had a lot to offer.
Absolutely.
In speaking with your staff, and especially Brian Wiener, the director of marketing, the term or the motto "League of Opportunity" kept popping up.
Sure.
Exactly how does that comply with the USBL?
Yes. First of all, Brian does a great job for us.
He was extremely helpful.
Running our show. We call it the League of Opportunity for many reasons, but one is to illustrate the fact that we're a quality professional basketball league. There's only 3 in the United States: the NBA, the Continental Basketball Association, and ours. The only difference whereby ours is run through the summer as a standalone. Players invariably will come from Europe, NBA unrestricted free agents, collegiate personnel from all over the country, and get a chance to play right prior to European professional basketball, as well as the NBA and CBA. So therefore, players have the ability to showcase their talent in a professional environment, an exciting environment that people will like and come see.
And that's totally different than playing pickup basketball,
No.
or even a little tournament, even little side tournaments that might be established by a local sponsor. Professional basketball is definitely different.
This is professional basketball, and clearly we'll talk to the issues later, some of the players that have come through this league, but this is professional basketball.
Now, Harry, on that note, what do you hope to gain from this experience in the USBL?
I hope to gain some type of maybe pro experience that can help me develop my skills even more, develop my strength even more. Maybe can help me in the future in the long run.
Well, from your record at Iona College, you have done a great job so far. And let's go to a clip of Harry in action, if we can. And I want to ask Harry, what are your strengths in your game? And also, what do you think you'll be changing, if anything, when you take the next step to the professional level?
I think my strengths are my rebounding, my back to the basket moves, and my hook shot. And my block shots is a big plus, and it helps. And I think I finally have to change, maybe have to step out a little more, because obviously this player is bigger than me. So I think I have to step out a little more.
You talked about your block shots. You broke Jeff Rubin's record, am I correct?
Yes.
At Iona College for block shots in the season?
Yes.
And we all know that Jeff went on to play in the NBA. That's a great omen.
Slack.
I want to get back to something that we touched upon earlier about community involvement and the Westchester Stallions. One of the great things about having a pro team in the area, they really get the community involved.
Sure.
And in just talking to Brian and your staff in New Rochelle, I found that this not only is a professional team as far as their on-the-court experience, but also off the court. They really want to get the team involved. And I already see that they've done that by getting Harry Hart from Iona College. You signed Derek Canada, who also played at Iona College. You've also signed Darren Rowe, is it, from New Rochelle High School. He graduated in '83 and went on to play at St. Peter's.
Yes.
What else are the Stallions doing to get the community involved?
Clearly, our commitment has been to acquire and work with as much local talent as we could to mesh into our structure and our profile of a professional basketball team. People like Harry, beyond them being very good basketball players, they're quality individuals. And in with that, we have created, with our company and our basketball team, but we have a media entertainment company also. We have created with Scott and Brian, Scott Amon and John Paul Basile, we've created a youth enhancement program whereby we're working with the different boys clubs and girls clubs and presently now even junior achievement, and the fact that we're giving back to the community and tying in a very specific, targeted way at different levels, through education, through drug awareness, through lifestyles and business development, and through junior achievement, talking about creating business models, et cetera, et cetera. So that's our commitment.
So important.
Yes.
To really get the community involved. I've read some quotes from your basketball players. Darren Rowe made a couple and Derek Canada, about how they want to give a good performance on the court.
Sure.
But just as important is off the court. What they bring to the kids off the court is just as important.
Yeah.
And I think that is just, especially today in the top level of professional sports, you don't see that commitment. And the Stallions at such a young age as far as only being in the league just this year,
Correct.
they've really gone at that and made that their specific point.
Yes.
To make sure the community is involved. And I really, my hat's off to the organization. It's a great, great organization so far.
Thank you.
Harry, back to you. What are your future plans? The league ends in July. What's the next step in your career?
Well, hopefully, if I can play well, show my talents to the scouts, maybe I get a shot at the NBA. If not, overseas. If not, just further my career from school. You know?
I have no doubt that you'll do a great job, no matter where you go.
Thanks.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Mark, down the road, 2 or 3 years, where do you envision the Stallions and the league?
Well, we envision the Stallions clearly well placed in the community in terms of business relationships and through our youth enhancement program with the community-based level, grassroots level, as well as a professional media entertainment company and basketball team. We see ourselves growing with the league, going to more cities, maybe 10 to 15 cities, et cetera, and clearly a couple of championships under our belt.
That's great. Where can they call for information?
Okay, our corporate offices in New Rochelle on North Avenue are at 914-576-8827 between the hours of 9 o'clock and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Any information on the youth enhancement program, on
ticket information, matching programs, and even to use our services in a media entertainment concern to match community development projects as well as with corporations that want to do an outreach by virtue of our television contract, which is on Prime Network and Sports Channel. Our 12 games, we reach approximately 41 million households.
So 576-8827 gets you in the Stallions headquarters.
Into the corral.
That's great.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up right now. We'll be back after this announcement to wrap up the whole show. I want to thank Harry and Mark for being on the show. Best of luck. And Bench Jockeys gives you our full support. And we hope to have you on the show again later on.
Sure.
Okay?
Thank you very much for having us here.
Anytime. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
Harry, thank you very much. We'll be back after this announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, the late Yul Brynner. I really wanted to make a commercial when I discovered that I was that sick and my time was so limited. I wanted to make that commercial that says simply, now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke. Whatever you do, just don't smoke. If I could take back that smoking, we wouldn't be talking about any cancer. I'm convinced of that.
That was a great segment, Steve, and the thing I'm most impressed with was that they talked about community involvement. That's so important in today's age, especially with the problems that young teens are having. And I think that's a very big step that this league is going to take.
I can't put enough emphasis on just the fact that they were very, very strong about that point. You know, we want to put a good product on the court, but also we want to put a good product off the court and get the community involved. I think it's a great opportunity for Westchester to have a professional team and see both of them grow at the same time. It's a ground floor opportunity. I think Westchester should seize it and work with it, and they'll both move up. And I know their first game is May 16th at Concordia College at 3 o'clock. There was also a Meet the Players, Meet the Stallions, the local sports tavern in New Rochelle afterwards, right after the game. I think that's worth going to. And they're doing a lot of things. There's 3-on-3 tournaments, and he spoke of the youth enhancement program. Definitely worth a shot. And we should all get involved. I know Bench Jockeys is definitely going to sponsor that.
Excellent, excellent. I really like what I saw. And I want to thank Marc Washington and Harry Hart for coming down. They did a great job. Got about 2 minutes left, a little less. Something you want to mention about Micro League?
Next week we're going to start a new feature. We're going to be Micro League
Interactive software.
interactive software.
So we're going to have the 77 Yankees against the 74
Let me
Mets?
explain. What we're doing is we're going to be pitting, we're having a tournament and we're going to be pitting teams from different years against each other, and we'll have more details on the next show. There'll also be details in Steve's newsletter, which we will see the address at the end of the show. Also, we're going to be doing art in sports, particularly baseball stadiums, and we're also going to have a Stallions update.
Okay, that about does it. I'd like to thank you guys, Mike and Steve Gonzalez from the bench. I'm Mike Damergis with a little picture of Reggie Jackson. Congratulations, Reggie. Way to go. There we go. Hats off to Reggie. It's out of here.
Reggie.
Reggie.
Cut it out.